For the vulnerability exercise, I had to draw how I feel about vulnerability. And for me, a tree was a true symbol of vulnerability. A tree doesn't have a right, doesn't have a voice. You are armless, legless, mouthless. You are just there, even if there are statutes in law that protects them. But anyone can do whatever they want to do to a tree. You can urinate on it, you can cut it, you can do whatever you want. And that's what vulnerability for me means. The week allowed us to open up to our vulnerabilities. The space was so safe that for the first time, trees were allowed to have an opinion. But I know outside of this space, going back to my church, my vulnerability will not be recognized. I'm expected to be strong, to be as hard as a rock, because people might use that vulnerability for their own advantage. So I'm just moving between two worlds, like a prisoner who got a week pass.
Beginning of the explanation of the vulnerability exercise, it was confusing. We were told that we need to draw our feelings. When last did I use crayons?
Our pictures were like kids' drawings, we're not artists. So that would also be a buffer that you can laugh at yourself whilst exploring something that is very deep. So I drew a person in the middle of the page, then small little people all around. It was raining spears to say that vulnerability feels like you are being attacked from all angles. You just feel so alone, but in the spotlight.
I'm an introvert. I like to stay in my corner. I am not a person who will share in a hurry. And so the uncomfortability of it, needing to share my inner thoughts and my inner feelings, I wanted to hide in a hole. But on the positive side, it's so much more easier to identify the feelings and articulate it now. When you want to be vulnerable in front of yourself, it's so scary. Imagine doing it in front of so many people. It's not enjoyable, and you don't know what people's reactions are going to be. I stood up thinking, oh, I've got this. I'm so together. I feel strong, I feel confident, I can do this. And then I just opened my mouth and there you go. There you go. I broke down and then I couldn't continue, but I had to push through it. And everybody was so loving. You could feel the support without them saying a word. It is just energy thrown at you, and that was fantastic.
I think for me, the part that stumped me was the third quadrant. How do people perceive you? It's 20 years, and it is always painful. Every time I open my mouth and say, hi, my name is Vanan, I'm an addict. And I think it's always got to do with that question that came up. How do people see you? Because I don't make associations with how people see me. I don't really care about how they see me. As long as they see me. But to internalize that and to try and come up with an answer broke me because I didn't know. And before that point, I didn't care really. But at that moment, it made me care. And I felt vulnerable, completely out of my depth. I felt isolated, all the things that you don't want to associate yourself with, especially coming from addiction. So that's why I drew the injection needle, because that made me vulnerable. But also knowing the kind of space this was, it wasn't threatening. It to say what I wanted to say. So that helped. When I heard the others sharing, it was an exciting moment for me. And I didn't feel alone, because a lot of them were sharing stuff that I was going through, and stuff that I'd experienced, and I can feel you on that one. So it was exciting. And I think it was the most attentive that I've ever been in a big space.
I've had an opportunity to be listened to and not feel judged and really put myself first. It's such an empowering experience. I've been able to talk to people that I did not expect any response from, but I received kindness and support and comfort. One quadrant where we have to express what accompaniment is for us. And what I drew was a journey to Emmaus. Remember that story of the disciples that who were going to Emmaus, and Jesus joined them and they didn't notice that it was him. And they were talking with each other, and Jesus was there listening to them and their frustrations and their fears. Then he started engaging them and giving them that reassurance that he is with them. And it stuck with me how important it is to listen before you provide solutions, journeying with the victim to hear what really is the problem and what sort of help they might need, And I've now approached life like that. So yeah, that was my one quadrant.
I need to do interviews for my project to find out what the LGBTI queer community need from us. And in order for me to be successful in getting the truthful answers, I needed to experience this week. I needed to experience vulnerability, and I think that was what I'll take away. And it's not only for this project, it is for everything for the rest of my life.
It made me to understand vulnerability better. But as I go forward, I want to go deeper into what really makes me vulnerable. Then I think by understanding what makes you vulnerable, I can work and respond better to the needs of my community.
My take home would be that I am beyond not wanting to hear what people think of me. It's not going to trigger me into a relapse. And so it's given me some liberty here. I'm feeling a bit of a release from that. So it was a nasty exercise for me to go through in the beginning. But I realized that I need to stick around. I have to stick around. And now I want to stick around. So I'll take that with me and I'll keep it for good.